host, Louis DB, here along with Dave Kress. This is our first podcast kicking off the NFL offseason. We are a couple days in advance. Post-Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks reign high in their first ever franchise championship. 43-8 was the final score. Seahawks and Broncos. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing good. So let's dive right into this. The offseason is officially underway, so we're going to give a little recap of some of the big notes from the Super Bowl, which was a game that, honestly, I didn't think was as good as most people thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's first talk about the victor, the Seattle Seahawks. Dave, who do you think first should have been the Super Bowl MVP? Malcolm Smith was awarded the trophy, but who deserved it more out of all of the Seahawks that had an outstanding performance?
I would say Seahawk safety Cam Chancellor. I just love the Seahawks secondary. They're so good. They hit hard, but it's not illegal hits as well. I mean, Cam Chancellor had a great game, but I don't really have a problem with Malcolm Smith winning it because he had a great game as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was actually going to say Cam Chancellor as well. I think you could have gave it to a lot of people. Honestly, I think that when you think about how great that Seattle defense is, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you just handed it to everybody. But it was really a great game overall for both sides of the ball. Even the special teams outscored Denver's offense. So
did their defense.
Right. So, but I agree with you. I think Cam Chancellor had the biggest impact. I think Malcolm Smith kind of feeds off of that secondary. I think that's why he got that pick against San Fran in the NFC Championship game. He had a great game, obviously, double-digit tackles, a pick six, and a fumble recovery. But again, a lot of that was because of the great play by the pass rush and Maxwell's forced fumble when he tipped it out. So I agree. I like Cam Chancellor's hard hitting. Do you think that Russell Wilson has implemented himself as the best of all the young quarterbacks now with his first Super Bowl title? Out of all the guys, he's the first one to get it, or is it more of a product of how good of a team he's on?
Well, it's a little of both, but I mean, he's the only one with a ring, so I'd say yes. He's been the best. I mean, he was an MVP candidate this year too, so he had a great season.
Who do you think's next?
Next out of the young guys?
Yep, next guy to get it. I mean, obviously, we're always gonna put the guys together like Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, and RG3 and those guys. Obviously, they're not. I mean, Cam Newton's this is gonna be his fourth year heading in, so they're not. They're still young, but they're not the rookies of the NFL now. So, but I kind of think that Kaepernick might be next in line. I think in San Fran they're kind of built just like Seattle, where they could be hoisting a Super Bowl next year. I think Kaepernick or Cam Newton has the best chance to me to get back and win a Super Bowl.
I was actually going to say Kaepernick myself. I mean, they've been to the NFC Championship game 3 straight years in a row now. Only been to the Super Bowl once and lost last year, as you know. So I'm saying next year they get it.
I kind of like, but I mean, with the AFC, this is what I've noticed is how, and I'm just going to go along here bouncing off of the Seahawks win. I feel like the teams in the AFC are built totally different than the NFC, to where they just can't play the type of style that the NFC has. Look at all the great defenses in the NFC, big physical players in the secondary and on every part of each position on defense with the Panthers, the Seahawks, the 49ers. Even you got the Bears defenses looking good. All teams to me now, I don't know about you, but I feel like they're all going to be replicating themselves after what the Seahawks and 49ers have done this year and kind of maybe base their own team off of what happened this year.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, the Seahawks defense is really dominant, and that showed in the Super Bowl. And then, I don't know if the teams are going to form it. It takes a few years to get great defense like that, but, I mean, it's not like the Seahawks have a bad offense either. So they still have a great offense. That's why I think I can see them back there next year as well. That's a good chance.
Is this a dynasty in the making for the Seahawks, or is it like you just said that they could be back here, or is this something that is kind of like the Ravens, where this is maybe a 1 or 2 time thing and that's really it, or is this to be the making of the next early 2000s New England Patriots or the 80s 49ers? Could this potentially be, or is it too tough a division and just too tough of a conference for them to keep competing at the Super Bowls year in, year out?
No, I think they can keep competing, especially if they have all these players, but people keep saying, like, oh, their team's so young, they're going to be around forever, but some of these players are going to walk. They can get more money somewhere else. They already got the ring. So a lot of people are just going to try to get as much money as they can. So
I mean, speaking of which, I mean, you already got the Seahawks already are in a situation. Golden Tate's gonna be a free agent this season. Reports say, from what I've been reading, they're gonna cut Sidney Rice, which would clear about $9.8 million. That Seattle receiver is sneaky deep. I mean, you got obviously Percy Harvin when he's healthy is going to be your number one guy. Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin, and then Jermaine Kearse even.
Oh yeah,
it's stacked. That's why I think there really just is no room for Sidney Rice. What is the one position now? Because we're kind of getting in the mood now for the combines coming up in a couple of weeks, and the draft. Obviously, people are getting ready with their mock drafts. What is the one position that Seattle now, I mean, because they're so stacked at each position, actually needs to upgrade in the draft and this offseason and free agency?
Well, I mean, there's really not much. I mean, people could say receiver, I guess, is a safe one, but maybe even a tight end, something like that. I mean, their defense is set. They don't need anything there. Their secondary is the best in the league, and really, their defense is just insane. So I'd say probably a receiver.
I agree. I think Zach Miller has been a big disappointment since they brought him over from Oakland after that breakout year. I want to say it was 2010, but I think that tight end's the big spot. But I agree. I think somewhere on the offensive side of the ball, and I mean maybe another. I mean corner. They got Brandon Browner's coming back next year, so obviously they're going to be set at that position too. So I would agree. Let's talk a little bit now about Denver because. Now the whole story is about Peyton Manning's legacy, how it's affected the whole narrative that he can't play in the playoffs. I mean, the critics are back up and talking about it. I'm just going to ask you the question: how does this affect his legacy?
I don't really think it affects it that much. I mean, obviously putting up 8 points in the Super Bowl is disappointing, but I mean, they're in the Super Bowl. They're the second best team in the league. He broke every single record, and he's going to break more next year. I see nothing holding them back from going right back to the Super Bowl next year. They'll help out their defense over the offseason, draft a guy or two, and I really don't see the problem. Von Miller's coming back, so I mean, people act like the Broncos are done now, but they made it to the Super Bowl.
How many years do you think Peyton has left?
Not much, 2 or 3 maybe even 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this might be the last one, but my concern is if they can play up to par with the teams like the AFC in the NFC. I don't think there's one team that really, other than the New England Patriots, can really give the Broncos a run for their money for the seed. Maybe the Colts if they can patch up that pretty terrible defense. Chuck Pagano is not just branching off to the Colts is not really, ever since coming over from Baltimore when he was the defensive coordinator, he really has not upgraded that defense. And I'm just thinking, looking at all the teams that, right, like you just said, Denver will probably be back there next year. It's just a question of can they keep up with teams like this, like Seattle, that have just all-star Pro Bowlers at every single position. I kind of want. Let's see. I mean, give me what do you think Denver should do in free agency? Because Eric Decker is going to be a free agent. So is Noshawn Moreno. Do you think that they should? Do you think that they're going to get both back in the team, or what do you think the potential for both of them returning is for this offseason? Because obviously they were both huge for that record-breaking performance this year for that offense.
Yeah, well, what they should do is they should re-sign Noshawn Moreno.
They like what they have in Monty Ball, but I think Noshawn Moreno brings another dynamic to that offense with 60 receptions compared to Monty Ball's 20, which is a good amount for not playing as much. All right, let's move on from the Broncos. But give me my 2 cents real quick. I do think that Peyton Manning was still going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I feel like everyone forgets he got the one Super Bowl in 2006. But, I mean, what pretty much people are thinking is he doesn't have as many as Brady and all the other Joe Montana and John Elway and all those guys. So I'm going to bring something up real quick that has to do with the Super Bowl. There wasn't as many exciting plays for Denver other than the one touchdown they did have to Demaryius Thomas, who did set a Super Bowl record for 13 receptions, and he played off a dislocated shoulder, I heard. So that's pretty impressive. But what to you was the best play in the Super Bowl?
You know, the one that I think really snapped the neck of the Broncos to finish it off was the Percy Harvin kick return touchdown. As you see right here, although it's not very great quality, but at one that point, start the third quarter, I mean, it was just over, putting it to about a 30-point deficit. So, that in my opinion was my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Percy Harvin. I think a lot of people were saying if Percy Harvin, some people, I from what I've listened to podcast wise and on television, of course, on ESPN and NFL Network, is really Percy Harvin just So really Percy Harvin brings to that offense is just something completely different than everybody else on that offense has. The speed, just the raw speed. I mean, you just saw him doing quick reverses and everything that they had. I mean, just imagine what if they would have had him during the season, what they would have done with that. So, give another play that you think was a big time one.
You know, thinking about it, actually, the best play might have been the first snap of the game when Peyton Manning in the center got into a little miscommunication, or whatever you're supposed to call it, and let's just show you. So,
bring this up right here.
Might be my favorite play, probably.
Stupid ads.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What do you think was another good one?
I like the safety, and I think that was really the biggest momentum changer. But one I liked a lot was the Malcolm Smith interception. I thought that was just because Denver was kind of getting on a roll a little bit on that drive, and they pretty much gave up everything. Here's a not so great quality video of the safety, but I mean just the first play of the game, miscommunication between Manning and the center just pretty much set the tone for the entire game.
Right there, yeah.
I mean that's just huge. I mean, it literally, and I don't know if you noticed this, I'm sure you did. The atmosphere in New York was like it was in Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, Seattle's fans just totally outdid the Denver fans. I don't know how many fans there were there, but it was an incredible thing to watch, definitely. And one little thing I've noticed, this is kind of a fun little observation. The team that has worn the white uniforms in the Super Bowl has won it almost every time in the 2000s.
Not last year.
Yes, the Ravens.
The Ravens were white?
They were white. The Ravens were white.
Giants
the
were
Seahawks were white. The Giants
I don't
were
think
white.
The Giants were against the second
They
time.
did. Look it up.
I know they did the first time.
Mario Manningham catch, that was in white.
Oh, yeah. They both were.
The only team that didn't that I noticed was the Green Bay Packers. But you had the Giants both times, the Saints, the Ravens in 2000. Okay, wait, I'm actually poking my own hole in my logic because Tampa Bay won in red. The Patriots blue 3 times. Okay, screw it. Never mind. I thought I had something clever. I was thinking to myself a couple days ago, and I was watching all these Super Bowls. I'm like, the white team has won a lot of the time, but I guess that wasn't true. Oh no, the Patriots won it. Once in white, not twice. So, yeah. So,
all right. Well,
yeah.
On the topic of fun facts.
Yeah.
So you know how this was the #1 defense against the #1 offense?
Of course.
This has happened 5 times in the history of the NFL, and 4 out of the 5 times the top defensive won. I believe the only time they didn't was 49ers winning over, I'm not sure.
Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of interesting. The defense is, in my opinion, if I could rather have a dominant defense or a dominant offense, I'm taking dominant defense.
I mean, I was surprised with the gameplay, but this NFL season was finally one of the ones like you actually expect in the playoff teams to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great one. I feel like this kind of implements that mobile quarterbacks can win you championships. There's so many of them in the league now, and heading into the draft, which we're going to be covering a lot, obviously, in this offseason. So stay tuned for that. With Teddy Bridgewater, I don't know if you want to say he's a mobile guy, but Manziel, Blake Bortles, all these guys have this talent that the NFL is really accepting now, and it's really revolutionizing the game. So it's going to be fun to be covering that all this offseason, and we'll be starting that up week by week.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for today's NFL offseason podcast. First one of the offseason. It's a very long one as the NFL season has come to a close. Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champs. Thanks for joining us here. If you want to check out us on YouTube, go to youtube.com/ouroldname NFL Experts. Follow me on Twitter @DVSportsTalk for all your NFL updates.
And follow our Twitter account, NFL Offseason Offseason NFL, or twitter.com/offseason NFL.
So we'll have that. Also check out our blog.
NFLOff Not off season, just off.
Just off.
.blogspot.com.
Okay, that's going to do it for us, and we will see you next time.